Australia has a history of human inhabitation that stretches back between 50,000 and 80,000 years. Before the arrival of Europeans, there were over 200 Aboriginal languages and around 500 distinct territorially anchored groups, although most Aboriginal groups were at least bilingual. The history of the Aboriginal people was kept orally, with stories being passed down through the generations. This created a wealth of folk tales based both on history and fantasy. In this video, we'll explore 8 Australian folk tales from the land down under. Number 1. The Bunyip. A bunyip is a mythical creature said to live in reedy swamps and lagoons and feed on unsuspecting humans. The animal has many different descriptions and, in some accounts, even looks human in appearance. In one story, a young bunyip cub is captured by a fisherman who decides to take it home for his wife's younger brothers and sisters to play with. At sunset, the water in the pool where the baby bunyip had been captured began to rise despite there being no rain. The water continued to rise, and the fishermen had to run to save themselves from being drowned. When the men reached their camp, the water was still rising behind them. The man carrying the bunyip flung the creature onto the ground, grabbed his wife, and cried to everyone to climb trees to avoid the incoming flood. As he felt the water touch his feet, he saw that they had transformed into the webbed feet of a waterfowl. He turned to his wife, but discovered she had been completely changed into a black swan, as had the rest of his friends and family. As the water rose, the swans bobbed on the surface while the mother bunyip rescued her cub. When the waters receded, the villagers were cursed to remain as black swans. Number 2. Gayardery, the platypus. The platypus has always been seen as somewhat of an anomaly in the animal world, and this tale is supposedly an adaptation of an Aboriginal legend about the origin of this unique Australian animal. The story goes that a young female duck used to enjoy swimming in the creek by herself, despite warnings from her flock that a water devil named Malacca might catch her. One day, while out on a swim, a huge water rat, Bagoon, saw her alone and took her back to his den, as he was lonely and wanted a wife. Although the duck was sure her tribe would come and rescue her, the rat tells her that they would think Malacca had captured her and then threatened her with a spear. So the duck stayed and pretended to enjoy her new life while planning her escape. During the day, she heard her tribe looking for her, but Bagoon would only let her out to swim at night when he knew the other ducks would be too afraid of Malacca to go into the water. The duck managed to convince Bagoon that she was happy in order to get him to let down his guard. One day, as Bagoon was napping, she fled the burrow and hurried back to her tribe. The ducks were overjoyed to be reunited, and soon it was laying season. When the ducklings emerged, the young duck was surprised to see that her babies didn't look like the others. Although they had hatched out of eggs, had bills and webbed feet, they had 4 legs instead of 2 and fur instead of down. In addition, they had spears on their hind feet, just like the one that Bagoon had used to threaten the duck. The other ducks were horrified and told the young duck to take her children away. She took them to the mountain creeks to raise them, eventually dying of grief. But her children grew and mated, thriving in the mountain creeks to become the Gayardery, or platypus. Number 3. The Kookaburras and the Goolagul. Another tale that revolved around a native Australian animal, this story centers on the laughing kookaburra. A goolagul is a hollow tree that fills up with water after heavy rain, a useful thing in the outback. Gugar, the iguana, had 2 wives, Moodai, the opossum, and Kookaburra. Kookaburra had 3 sons, and the 2 younger ones lived with her near a goolagul. One day, Gugar, Moodai, and Kookaburra went hunting, taking water with them but leaving none out for the 2 young boys who were too small to get any from the goolagul. By chance, their older brother came back for a visit and was horrified to see his younger siblings dying of thirst. The elder brother decided to punish his mother, her husband, and his other wife for leaving the young birds without water, and he split the goolagul, causing the water to gush out and form a stream. The parched birds quenched their thirst, and the 3 brothers waited for their mother to return. When the hunters came back, they found they were separated from their camp by a newly formed stream. The 3 Kookaburra sons pointed to a place that their mother could cross, but as she entered the stream, she found it was too deep and cried out, "Goog-goor gaga, give me a stick." Her sons, angry that she had nearly killed 2 of them through thirst, mockingly answered, "Goo-goo gaga," and the Kookaburra mother, along with Gugar and Moodai, were washed downstream and drowned, Number 4. Bugurugana, the Rainbird. According to this legend, Bugurugana was an old woman who had lived for a long time with a huge pack of dingoes. Bugurugana and the dingoes would often hunt humans to eat, with Bugurugana luring people into a trap by promising to help them hunt patamelons, a small marsupial of the kangaroo family. Bugurugana would go out with 2 small dogs, and when they ran into a hunting party, she would tell them that she and her dogs would herd the patamelons toward the group. Instead, Bugurugana would call "Buri Gugu," and the dingo pack would come and surround the men, drag their bodies back to their camp, and cook them. Soon, it was noticed that many people were disappearing, and suspicion was placed on the old woman and her 2 dogs. One day, some men hid themselves and watched as Bugurugana set her trap. Now, knowing for sure that it was her, the local tribes came together and formed a plan. A small hunting party went out as usual, and as usual, Bugurugana promised to herd the patamelons toward them. This time, when Bugurugana called the dingoes, a larger group of armed men jumped out and killed Bugurugana, her dogs, and the dingoes. As they were walking away, they heard a cry of "Bugurugana" coming from the woman's body. After breaking all the woman's bones to ensure she was dead, the men saw a small gray bird fly from the woman's heart, calling "Bugurugana, Bugurugana." From then on, the little bird was called the Rainmaker. Legend has it that if someone steals the bird's eggs, it will cry out "Bugurugana" and cause rain to fall. Number 5. Dreamtime. Although the idea of dreamtime isn't a tale in itself, it is the setting of many Aboriginal stories. Most of these stories involve the ancestor spirits and are creation myths for the land and animals. The ancestor spirits of the dreaming become part of the land, forming sacred places, and their animal descendants also possess their spirit. Stories of the dreamtime have been passed down through the generations and help that people retain a sense of who they are and their relationship to the land and animals. The journey of the ancestor spirits is reflected in the landscape and is known as dreaming tracks, which are stories that interconnect numerous sites and relate to the features, laws, flora, and fauna of the areas. Traditionally, these stories are told through song, dance, the sound of the didgeridoo, and symbolic drawings. Designs that represent the dreaming are also used for body art and sand paintings. Number 6. How the Sun Was Made. One tale from the dreaming is a story of how the sun was made. The story starts before humans inhabited the earth, when huge versions of beasts and birds lived together. There was no sun in the sky, just the moon and stars. One day, Dinawan, the emu, was arguing with Bralga, the crane. In a rage, Bralga threw one of Dinawan's huge eggs into the sky. The egg landed on a heap of firewood, which burst into flame as the egg cracked. The yellow yolk spilt, and the flame lit up the world, dazzling the animals that were used to the semi-darkness. A spirit who lived in the sky saw how beautiful the world looked in the light and decided to light a fire in the sky every day. In order to warn the animals that the sky was about to be lit, the spirit sent the morning star out as a beacon. However, this was not enough, as some of the sleeping animals didn't see the star. So, the spirit commissioned the kookaburra to laugh loudly as the morning star faded, in order to alert the sleeping animals that the sunfire would be lit. Number 7. The Rainbow Serpent. The rainbow serpent is one of the most prominent dreamtime creatures and ancestral beings, and is found in many Aboriginal myths. It is said to have emerged from underground, awakening different types of animals and forming the gorges, rivers, and hills with the movement of its body. It is said to now reside in a waterhole and is the cause of droughts, cyclones, and floods. Legend states that after a heavy rainstorm, when the snake's waterhole is disturbed, the sun touching the serpent's body causes it to rise and travel through the clouds to find another waterhole to live in. The waterholes in which the rainbow serpent resides are said to never dry up, even in times of great drought. The rainbow serpent goes by many names, and each region of Australia has its own name and story that is linked to this great creator spirit. Number 8. Uluru. In Central Australia stands a large monolith dubbed Ayers Rock by Europeans, but referred to as Uluru by native Australians. The monolith, rising 348 meters above the surrounding plain, has many folktales linked to it. It is said to have been created by ancestor spirits during the dreamtime, and many areas around Uluru are highly sacred. One of the stories of Uluru is centered around the Mutijulu waterhole. The tale tells of Kunia, a Woma python, and Liru, a venomous brown snake. Kunia came to Uluru to hatch her eggs, which she carried strung around her neck. She placed her egg at Kumia Piti, camping and hunting at Tapuchi, where her movements wore deep grooves in the rock. On the other side of Uluru, Kunia's nephew was resting as he tried to flee a group of enraged Liru. The Liru saw him and threw spears at him, leaving round holes in the rock face and eventually killing him. When Kunia found out what had happened, she raced to Muditjulu waterhole, where she confronted one of the Liru. The Liru warrior mocked her anguish, and Kunia started to perform a powerful and magical dance. Her rage spread throughout the sand, and she struck the Liru warrior across the head twice. The Liru warrior fell, dead, and dropped his shield into the waterhole, where it still lies today in the form of a huge boulder. The blows that Kunia struck are evidenced by two deep cracks in the western wall, and Kunia herself remains as a curved black line on the eastern wall. Do you know of any Australian tales and folklore? Let us know in the comments below. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about the history of Australia, check out our book, History of Australia, a captivating guide to Australian history, starting from the Aborigines through the Dutch East India Company, James Cook, and World War II to the present. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.